All right. Well, welcome to the South Concourse of McLean Stadium in front of the RG3 statue.
Hello, Rob.
He's had a fun year.
He's on. I tell you what, he's on TV all the time.
He is now.
Which is great when he adds the NFL stuff to his college work. So we're trying to get him back for the Hall of Fame induction banquet November 18th. He's being inducted this year.
Oh, wow.
And he'd love to be here, but he just doesn't know his schedule. So it'd be fun if it works out.
That's one of those things about working in sports, man.
That's right.
Welcome into the Big 12 Breakdown. Sports Director Kurtis Quillin, voice of the Bears John Morris. John, great week for Baylor.
Yeah, it was.
Great week for Baylor.
Really, really good. I mean, that was a huge win in Lubbock. We talked this time last week about how big a game it was for both teams, for Baylor and for Texas Tech, and that home field advantage for Tech, which was significant. I mean, they had a great crowd there, but Baylor just did a great job handling that. I think they did learn from the previous road games they'd been through, and just played their best game of the year, best complete game of the year to win that game.
You know, we stood here last week, and you and I were different on two picks.
Yeah.
You were right on both of them.
Oh, really? Well, thanks for bringing that up.
I don't like admitting that. That's the best defensive performance that Baylor has had easily since Iowa State.
It was a great defensive performance, and it was complementary football. Complementary meaning the offense and the defense complemented each other, but I think complementary also in that the defensive front really helped the defensive back. And that's how you get 5 interceptions is pressure on the quarterback, and 6 sacks over the course of the night kind of helped the defensive backfield also.
5 interceptions, all 3 quarterbacks that have started a game for Texas Tech this season, throwing at least 1.
Yeah.
Just an all-around dominant effort from the Bears, and exactly what they needed to do going into this 3-4 week stretch to end the season. You got Oklahoma this week, K-State, TCU, Texas. Woof.
Yeah, exactly. That's life in the Big 12, though, you know. And Baylor, to me, is really starting to hit their stride. What we thought they could be, and I think what people thought they could be, being picked number 1 in the league in the preseason poll. I think they're just now getting there, playing, running the ball with that offensive line and pressure from the defensive front. All those things are really starting to materialize.
You have to wonder what clicked after that West Virginia game.
Yeah.
Because this is not the same team that we saw in Morgantown. This is not the same team we saw against Oklahoma State, and it's sure not the same team that we saw in Provo against BYU. A BYU loss, by the way, that has not aged well for the Bears since then. Unfortunately,
that's right. BYU's kind of struggled this year. I think that was kind of the game of the year for BYU, or they just put so much into that and played like it, so give them credit.
You look elsewhere in the Big 12. Final score in Lubbock was Baylor 45, Texas Tech, 17?
Yes.
And 14 of those came on a very strong third quarter from Texas Tech.
So there's that factor, which was similar to the Kansas game the week before. Remember, Baylor had a 28-3 lead and strong third quarter, and KU closed it to 28-23. Similar to that, but the difference was Baylor just turned it right back on and poured on the gas after Tech had closed it to, what? How close did they get?
It was,
24-17 maybe? Yeah, maybe 7.
TCU 41, West Virginia 31. West Virginia had a lead in this one.
Yeah.
And then it evaporated. TCU just so good this year.
Coming from behind. No, they didn't come from behind this week, but they have just proven they do whatever they need to do. And I'm sure you're going to bring up the college football playoff rankings.
Let's get through the preview portion.
I knew you were. I saw you at 10 o'clock last night. You were boiling a little bit, so I knew that would come up. But TCU still undefeated, one of 6 unbeatens in college football now.
Yeah, one of 6 unbeatens, and they're finding a way, man. On the road, at home.
Yeah.
Boo Corrigan said, they're just playing from behind. Yeah, so is Alabama. Alabama finished the game behind. That's called a loss.
That's right.
Oklahoma 27, Iowa State 13. OU did what it needed to, and it did it on the road.
Right. And Iowa State is right there, still in a lot of games. I still think, call me crazy, I still think they're going to beat somebody. I mean, it may be this week, but I think they're going to beat somebody in the league.
Who do they have this week?
West Virginia.
West Virginia, yeah. So. And you have to look at, I like to call these, I steal it from a podcast I listen to, a certified anxiety bowl, where you have one team that would really love to get a conference win, and another one where if they lose this game, they're probably firing their coach at the end of the season. So we'll talk a little bit more about that one later on as well. And finally.
Oh, yeah. There was one other game. Was it close, Kurtis?
No.
It was not close.
It was close at kickoff. Number 22, Kansas State 48. Number 9, Oklahoma State. Not a freaking thing.
Zippo. First time a Mike Gundy coach team has been shut out?
Since Bedlam 2009.
Wow. And the worst loss in Mike Gundy's head coaching career?
And it's his 18th season.
Wow, man.
Think about that.
How'd you handle that?
I fortunately was on a ladder. I didn't have to watch any of the.
Really?
I didn't have to watch the meltdown. I was working on my house.
You didn't jump, did you?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I turned it on, and my mom's not the biggest football fan, but she understands that I am.
Yeah.
And so I turn on the game on the radio on the Varsity Network app. I'm not paid to say that. It's a great app.
It's a great app.
And I listen to the OSU broadcast, and I hear Dave Hunziker and John Holcomb, and neither one is energetic, and they both sound like they're ready to go to dinner that night with their wives, and I'm like, this is terrible. My mom even to the point goes, why do we have to listen to this?
That's
this
funny.
Is ugly.
Yeah, boy, that was very surprising, I would say. I think you and I split on even picking the winner for that game last week. And neither of us would have thought it'd be that much of a margin.
No, and you know, for Oklahoma State, yes, Spencer Sanders leaves the game. Yes, Tom Hutton, their All-American punter, leaves the game. Both of those injuries happened very late in this game, so those are not the reasons for this. A couple of untimely interceptions. They couldn't tackle Deuce Vaughn. Will Howard starts this game and looks as efficient as Adrian Martinez does. Everything went right for Kansas State, to the point where Mike Gundy described on Monday, and I'm going to paraphrase because there are words that the FCC says I'm not allowed to say on the air that he used, that, Chris Kleiman walked up to Gundy after the game and said, I'm not sure my kids could have played any better. And, well, Chris, you picked a really terrible week to do that.
Is that paraphrasing?
That's paraphrasing.
Gotcha. Yeah, boy, K-State just looked so good. They played great. And you wonder, did Oklahoma State expend so much energy the week before?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, come from behind against Texas, huge win for them. But, was that a factor, the week later?
I'm starting to think it was. And you remember, Spencer Sanders hasn't been 100% since he played Baylor.
Right.
That next week at TCU, there's talk he couldn't miss the game. It was very unfounded at that point, but the fact that he didn't practice the week leading in, and that was a topic of discussion after that loss, and then still not healthy for Texas, still not healthy for K-State, and for Oklahoma State, it doesn't exactly get easier. Yeah. Kansas, Jalen Daniels is practicing again, and Kansas
coming off an open date,
and the Jayhawks are undefeated with Jalen Daniels as their quarterback at the end of the game.
Yeah, that's right. When Kansas was here a couple of weeks ago, Jalen Daniels didn't play in that game, but he was warming up, and there was talk, he, with an open date, could be ready to go this week. So that'd be a huge boost for KU.
It would be, and if Spencer Sanders can't play and Gunnar Gundy has to start, I think he'll be a lot more calm starting than he will be coming into the fourth quarter of a 45-0 ball game.
Yeah.
To me, the bigger loss for this one, other than the game, because the game was a substantial loss for Oklahoma State, is Tom Hutton. He's injured. He's done for the year. He already said he wasn't coming back for next season, so I think he's going to go after an NFL career, and he has the chance to have a really special one.
That's a tough loss.
It is.
People may not appreciate fully, a veteran punter like that, but somebody that's so consistent, so that's a big loss.
Isaac Power from Baylor even commented on the Instagram post where Tom Hutton said that he's done for the year and was, celebrating with him what he was able to accomplish and kind of mourning that it's the end of the season so early for Tom Hutton.
Yeah, that's tough. It really is. So, again, it doesn't get any easier. You got to pick up and you got to get ready to go again.
Nope. Is TCU the most impressive result to you? Go on the road that far away? Because the length of the road trip does matter in college football.
Right.
And just find a way.
Yeah, probably so, because actually I think Baylor over Tech was the most impressive of the weekend. But I think TCU that was a real trap game, in a lot of people's minds, but they didn't let it trip them up and got the win that they needed to. So it was really impressive.
It was to me as well. That's the first time that TCU has faced a healthy QB1 for a full 60 minutes.
That's true,
in
isn't
Big
it?
12 play.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they did what they needed to do. And JT Daniels is a very good quarterback.
He's good.
And that's they're basically looking in a mirror because JT Daniels is capable of slinging it down the field, and they can go air raid or they can ground and pound it just like TCU can. And so this was a very interesting test for the Frogs. West Virginia is not a bad football team. The results just don't go their way. Those those 2-score games, they're kind of a better Nebraska under Scott Frost.
That might be fair. Yeah. They're not a bad team.
No.
They are not a bad team. I think they are well coached also.
Yes.
They just haven't had things fall their way this year.
Things haven't fallen their way this year, and, then you've got it looks like is it C.J. Donaldson that's going to be out for the rest of the season that I saw come down the pike on Monday. And so definitely going to be an interesting year to watch with West Virginia.
Speaking of quarterbacks, one thing I noticed this week, 8 of the 10 teams in the league have had to go to a backup quarterback at some point. 8 of the 10.
Wow.
So that shows.
Who are the two? West Virginia and Iowa State?
I think you're right. Hunter Deckers has gone the whole way all year for Iowa State.
And K-State, we just saw a K-State Oklahoma State game where neither team ended it with their opening day QB1.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that?
That's interesting.
Chapin had to give way, to Kyron Drones.
And they play this week.
Right.
And so that'll be an interesting aspect of that matchup. So the college football playoff top 25. You knew it was coming.
I did. I knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it because, there's this talk of, it's the first rankings. It doesn't matter. Not true. Every national champion in the college football playoff era has been in the top 8 of the first rankings. So it matters.
Mm-hmm.
TCU comes in at 7. Some of you may be thinking, great, TCU's in the hunt for a national championship. I would like to compare for a minute the resumes of the following schools: TCU, Clemson, and Alabama.
Okay.
One of those had Boo Corrigan, the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, list off 4 wins as the reason that they got bolstered as high as they did in the rankings.
Yep.
Those 4 teams have a combined winning percentage of 56.3%. None of the 4 have fewer than 3 losses. Another one of those 3 plays in a widely known as a weak conference and has had to bench its quarterback because he's been inconsistent this season. That team has the 3rd most wins over teams that were ranked in the AP poll at the time that they faced. And the 3rd one of these 3 teams has the 2nd best mark against teams ranked at the time they faced them. 2nd, by the way, to number 1, Tennessee.
Right.
The 2 teams Boo Corrigan used as the reason for where they are in the rankings don't have more than 2 losses, have 0 losses to teams that are not currently ranked in the college football playoff top 25, and a combined winning percentage of 75% even. Which one of those 3 do you think is TCU?
The team that's ranked 7th and not 3rd or 4th?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
TCU has the Boo Corrigan comes
4
on.
wins over ranked opponents, right?
Yeah, 4-0 against
4-0,
teams in the AP poll at the time that they played. That is wins over Kansas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State. Boo Corrigan used the Oklahoma State and Kansas State results as, quote, good results over good teams. They are both 6-2. Kansas State's 2 losses are current number 7 TCU and current number 19 Tulane. Oklahoma State's 2 losses are current number 7 TCU and current number 13 Kansas State. Because, and this is true, you can't lose to yourself. Alabama has a loss to number 1 Tennessee.
Right.
Alabama snuck out of Texas, currently number 24 in the rankings, to get out of Austin with a win. But it wasn't even a full-strength Texas because, remember, Quinn Ewers was injured in the first quarter, second quarter, pretty early on in this one. Snuck away in a couple of other games. And then their most impressive results are blowout wins over a kind of middle-of-the-pack Arkansas team, which, funny enough, one of the teams Corrigan used to justify putting Bama over TCU is a 3-loss Arkansas. Another one is a 5-loss Texas A&M. And another one, you look at Bama's most impressive results, and it's blowout wins over average teams in the SEC. And then there's Clemson. Again, if I'm going to make the argument, all you can do is judge them based on the teams that they play, then Clemson deserves to be in the conversation for the top 4 because all you can do is beat the teams on your schedule.
Yep,
and Clemson
true.
has done that.
Right.
Clemson's non-conference schedule was a reason that the committee gave for putting Clemson ahead of Michigan. Okay, Clemson's non-conference schedule to date: Furman, Louisiana Tech. I'm not saying Michigan's is any better,
right?
But they're all FBS teams,
right?
And so, my question to you: is it the poll that's the problem, or is it the justifications the committee uses? Because Kirk Herbstreit comes on and says, "Well, they're not the ones making up the rules." They kind of are, because the logic changes every single week. To me, do you agree with that?
Great people, in the room doing the best that they can, and you know what? They do this to create debate, to create interest, and they've accomplished that for sure.
Yeah.
Not that they say, "Ooh, let's put TCU lower just because it'll create a lot of conversation." I don't think they do that, but they just do the ranking itself for the purpose of creating interest and creating conversation about it. So, I don't know. It's a tough job.
It is a tough job, and again, the rankings aren't far off for me.
Right.
By the way, it's a historic rankings. Illinois, Tulane, and Oregon State all in the top 25 of the college football playoff for the first time ever in the 10-year history of the playoff. So it's a historic rankings. Oklahoma, the longest streak snapped. They had been ranked in the previous 41 college football playoff rankings. They are not ranked in this one. And the rankings aren't far off for me. I don't know that I would have Texas in there, but I also understand why Texas is in there.
Well, how about this? Conspiracy theorists would say they put Texas in so it gives Alabama another win over a ranked opponent.
And I've seen that. And that has actually come from several very well-respected college football reporters in this. And I tell myself every year, I'm not going to get wrapped up in the first college football playoff rankings. And then every year there is some sort of buffoonery in the reasoning that they use that just sets me over the edge.
Yeah.
And again, is TCU's in the top 8 in the hunt for a national championship as it deserves to be. And I think everybody would agree with that. I don't know that you can come up with 8 teams at the moment who are actually better at football this season than Alabama. And so Alabama probably needs to be in that top 8. And that's not an issue for me. LSU at 10 is an issue for me. UCLA as high as it is after getting manhandled by Oregon, that's an issue for me.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting top 25, and some of it interesting good. Tennessee, 5-0 against teams ranked at the time that they faced them. One of the most dynamic offenses in college football, and a defense that is more than capable of complementing it. Deserves to be number 1.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Georgia, the reigning national champion, has looked every bit the part of a college football playoff team this season. Deserves to be in that top 4. Ohio State passes the eye test, which I know is a cop-out to a lot of people, but the eye test is a very real thing. And Ohio State passes that eye test. Looks like one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team in the country. It deserves to be in that top 4. Michigan, Clemson, that conversation can be had and will be had for weeks to come. It's just some of the logic. This is the same committee that last year, after the Michigan State result, used head-to-head on a matchup either right below or right after, but ignored the result of that game and put Michigan over Michigan State. And so that's where my issues come in with it, is the flawed, not even flawed, just downright, to me, nonsensical logic.
It's a beauty pageant. And, teams with schools with name brands are going to get favored, no matter how hard, maybe you try not to. Maybe it's a subconscious thing, but name brands are going to benefit in this.
I saw, our friend Steven Simcox, the former producer at ESPN Central Texas, hosts the Locked On TCU podcast. Locked On, part of the Techna family. He tweeted last night, if TCU had a Texas or Oklahoma logo on the side of its helmet, it's in the top 4 and there's no question.
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah.
Probably right.
And so, yes, there's plenty of football left to be played, 4 or 5 games depending on where you're at in your season. It's just, to me, frustrating because this could be such a wonderful thing for college football, and we're just leaving it up to people who are making it seen, whether it's their intention or not. And I don't think that there is malfeasance in their intentions.
Yeah.
But making it seem to the general public as if they're just chasing TV dollars. How many private schools in the 10-year history of the college football playoff, John, have made the Final Four and played in a semifinal? And I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay. Offhand, 0?
1.
1?
The University of Notre Dame.
Okay.
Has played in it twice.
Okay.
In 2014, the first year of the playoff, TCU, number 3 going into the final week, beats Iowa State by, 50?
Yeah.
And drops.
And Baylor jumped them.
Yeah.
That's the old body of work.
Yep. And so head-to-head matters. And I agree with, if you're going to put someone over another team, they need to have beaten that team. And I get that. But that kept a private school from making it in year 1. I think Notre Dame made it year 2. And then every year that we come in, I actually had to look it up. Clemson's a public school. I didn't know that. I thought Clemson was a private school.
Okay.
But I saw someone talking about it's a bias against private schools. I don't think that's the case. I'm not going to sit here and be a conspiracy theorist. I do, though, think that, the smaller universities have a tougher road to climb than these large state schools with large alumni bases to be able to support these teams, because those large alumni bases tend to create larger donor pools to fund the athletic department.
Yep. And that committee would say that's not a factor at all. I think it's just more name recognition, name brand, but I do think that is a factor.
I agree with you. Let's move on to...
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay. I like venting.
Okay.
And I like... It's easier for me when there's someone who knows how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
And so I like bouncing ideas off. And I do agree they are doing the best they can.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is this flawed sense of logic in being used. And I think that both can be true without making the other one incorrect.
I got you.
So let's talk real quick. Kansas today, that we're doing this live Wednesday afternoon. Earlier today, the Kansas Jayhawks announced they've suspended Kurtis Townsend and Bill Self for, I think it was 4 games. Conveniently, they'll be back for the Battle for Atlantis this season. Does this tell you that do you think that there's more coming down the pipe from the NCAA? Or do you think this is a strategic move to soften the blow from the NCAA?
Far be it from me to ever predict what the NCAA might do or not do. Far be it from me. But I would say, there's obviously something there with the 4 games. And is this the end of it? I don't know. Maybe this is a preemptive strike, so maybe it is the end of it, but I sure don't know.
I promise I'm not talking about this because I'm an alum of the school. But I will tell you that if the NCAA does not ban Kansas from the postseason, there will be riots in the streets led by Oklahoma State fans.
Because that's what happened to Oklahoma State.
And even if the streets are Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm not saying actual riots in actual streets, but there will be a revolt against the NCAA from a particular Big 12 school and its fan base, because remember, Oklahoma State was banned from the 2021 NCAA tournament, appealed it because it knew it had the number 1 pick in that year's NBA draft in Cade Cunningham. The appeal took so long, Oklahoma State was eligible. Then the appeal was denied. They were holding appeal hearings, if you go back and listen to what Mike Boynton has said, on game days. So he would be in Indianapolis in the morning for appeal hearings and then fly to Lawrence that night to play Kansas. He would be doing X in one part of the country and coach at practice that night or a game that night. And so the way it handled the Oklahoma State case is what is ridiculous to me. You want to ban OSU from the postseason? I get that. But there needs to be some consistency there to me, because South Carolina didn't get a postseason ban, and the coach that OSU got slapped for never coached a game at Oklahoma State, coached actual games at South Carolina. And so I'm watching this very closely to see what comes down. Now, again, that was a committee on infractions thing for Oklahoma State. This is being done through the soon-to-be defunct IARP.
Fair points, all very good points. And not only you, there's going to be a lot of people that have been and will continue to watch this very closely.
Let's talk fun stuff again, and
Okay.
let's talk football for the week. 5 games. We're done with the byes. In the
I
Big
know.
12.
How about that?
We're back to full slates.
No more
every
byes.
Saturday, and it's a strange schedule. We start, of course, as we do with 3 big keys. Baylor facing Oklahoma. That is a 2 p.m. Central Time kick on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
A weird week on the and I'm not faulting the networks on this one. I think if either of these 2 teams loses 1 fewer game, that this is on ESPN or ESPN2.
Yeah.
And I'm not in charge of television inventory. 3 big keys, Baylor, OU. You want to start?
I will start, number one, by saying that this is a ploy by ESPN to get OU fan base to subscribe to ESPN Plus. So
That's your conspiracy belief.
yes. Yes, it is. And these are the 2 teams picked 1 and 2 in the preseason, and they meet in November, and they're
It's
on
a streaming
ESPN Plus. Yeah, how about that?
This sport, man.
Yeah, that's true. Subscribe. I think can you get a trial subscription?
You can get a trial. I think it's either 7 or 14 days free
Yeah.
or something along those lines. I have it. I love it.
Yeah. I do too. I watch it all the time.
It's nice to be able to pull up a game on my computer at work. It's nice to be able to watch baseball and softball in the spring if you don't live near the school.
Right.
And I mean, it's only $10 a month.
Yeah.
Spotify's more expensive than
Right.
ESPN Plus.
And by a year, and it's cheaper than that. So
Yeah.
there's our ad for ESPN Plus. So as far as keys for this week, to me, it's continued pounding the rock for the Bears, because man, they have shown really good improvement. The back-to-back wins for the first time since games 2 and 3 of the season, and just the way they're playing overall. The offense, the defense, special teams, still cutting down on penalties. All of that has just been better. So Coach Aranda likes to talk about pounding the rock.
Yeah.
And most people, when they hear that, they think, that means what? Run the ball.
Right.
But for him, it means, if you got this big boulder in front of you and you just keep pounding, just pounding on it, at some point it's going to break. But you don't know which one of those hits really opened it up to break.
Right.
So pound the rock and keep doing what you're doing. And I think Baylor has stuck to that, and I think we're starting to see the rewards of that.
I'm glad you explained that, because I was
yeah?
again thinking run the football.
That's what everybody would think.
Because that ever since they ended the streak, the losing skid, what has worked for Baylor so well, and it's the run
ball.
game,
Yeah.
specifically with Richard Reese. My first key is going to be with the defensive secondary, and I'm going to call it don't look back.
Yeah.
You just played your best game this season. Don't look back. Just keep moving forward. Keep going that direction. This is another pass-happy team, and now Dylan Gabriel is probably, I would say, better than any of the 3 quarterbacks at Texas Tech at throwing his guys open.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a big key. Keep everything in front of you. Don't look back, and don't copy the game plan from that 3rd quarter against Kansas. Don't copy the game plan or the way you did things at West Virginia. Do it the way you did it in Lubbock.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's really good. Oklahoma's last in the league in rush defense.
Wow.
So Baylor's up to, I'm not sure, 2nd or 3rd in rushing offense themselves. So that's been a huge part of those back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
Second thing for me, I would say, is you gotta control Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, he is good and he can run it. I mean, he is very fleet of foot, and he's got a really good arm, like you said, throwing guys open. I just think that's going to be a real key in keeping an eye on him and not letting him beat you himself.
He doesn't have the rushing yards this season, but
No.
if you watch an OU game, he has very importantly timed runs to keep plays alive or pick up the first down himself because the secondary did such a good job. The lack of rushing yards to me is an attribute to the fact that they lost a lot on the offensive line and have been trying to gain some cohesion there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a very good point that you make, and Dave Aranda even noticed that as well. Key number 2 for me is going to be the true freshman from Belleville, Texas. He wears number 29. You might know him, Richard Reese.
I've called his name a bit.
You and me both. You more than me. Reese is electric, and he's been shifty, and this offense has gone as he's went. When Richard Reese is playing well, Blake Shapen is playing better. The wide receivers are able to get open a lot easier because they can't just commit to the pass or the run, because if they commit to the pass, Richard Reese will run it for 25 yards. If they commit to the run, Shapen will throw it over the top and find Gavin Holmes. And so, to me, it's Richard Reese has to be a key to this one for Baylor.
Yeah, very good. And hopefully Squirrel Williams is back this week. Give him a little help. Although Quillin Jones has been really good. I think he's kind of the under the radar. And Richard obviously has had more carries and had more yards. But I think Quillin Jones has been really good as the number 2 back.
Who had Quillin Jones as the pass-catching back for the Bears this season? The guy is built like a tank.
Right, exactly.
He's been very good, though.
All right, third key for me would be, and I'm thinking of Oklahoma. Eric Gray is really good. Their running back. I think he's the best back that Baylor has faced this year. So they're going to have to control him. He is third in the league in rushing, like a half a yard ahead of Richard Reese right now. So 2 of the top 4, I think, maybe 5 rushers in the Big 12 Conference, those 2 guys. But Eric Gray is really, really good, and he just can't go wild.
My third and final one, and there's going to be people who watch this and say that it's a cop-out one for me because I say it every time they go on the road. This is going to be one of the most hostile environments they played in this season. You got to weather the storm.
That's fair.
Things are going to happen.
Right.
Things are going to happen when you're on the road, especially in Norman. That is a fun atmosphere in college football if you don't have a dog in the fight, because those are passionate fans just like at Texas Tech, just like at West Virginia, just like at BYU. You have to keep everything. Don't let one play that goes badly turn into 2, 3, and a dead drive.
Yep.
So you have to weather the storm.
That's it. And it's like, 86,000, I think. And it's supposed to be raining on Saturday.
Yep.
But you watch. That may change the game plans a little bit, but it won't affect that crowd one bit. They will be there, and it'll be packed. So Baylor did a great job handling the road atmosphere in Lubbock. They're going to have to do that again this week.
And they've done it. They've gotten multiple road wins this season, something that they'd only done once before. That was last year. They didn't win a road game in Dave Aranda's first season in Waco. They were limited to a not bowl eligible TCU, a Rice, teams like that in Matt Rule's final season. Last year they beat Texas State and Kansas State. And now this year they have road wins with some salt. Iowa State and Texas Tech. Baylor has not won in Norman since 2014.
Remember it well.
That 2016 game I was at, I remember going through the video. This is when Seth Russell's ankle, I believe, dislocated. And I remember John Elizondo, who was at Channel 25 at the time, he and I were sitting next to each other in the press box editing, and we both yanked our earphones out when we got to that play because you could hear it.
Yeah. It
was so loud in the stadium that our Nat sound mics picked it up.
Yeah, that's not a good memory.
No. So Baylor would like to put a lot of those things in the rearview mirror.
2014 was Bryce Petty.
Yep.
You remember his press conference heading into that week?
Vaguely. Yeah. I saw it on Twitter this week.
Okay. It was after we'd beaten Kansas here, and any and all questions he got, his answer was, just ready for OU. That was his answer, just ready for OU. And he was. And Baylor won big. And
that was a really good Baylor team that year as well.
Sure.
So that game, 2 p.m., I'm taking Baylor in a close one on this one. I like the way the Bears are playing lately, and I think even though OU is on the come-up, it's just a matter of the defense is not where it needs to be in Norman.
Yeah, I'm taking Baylor also on a roll, continue their upward trajectory. I just think they're going the right way. Oklahoma's only losses really were when they've had to play without Dylan Gabriel. Yeah. So, again, a real key, but I just think Baylor is going the right direction. They'll continue that this week.
As we go through the other 4 games in the Big 12 this week, 11 a.m. God's time on Fox. It's big noon kickoff in Fort Worth. It's undefeated 7th-ranked TCU against 4-4 Texas Tech. This is a game that in the past has gotten quite pointsy.
Very much so. And I guess it could again this week. But TCU playing at home on a roll. It's a tough ask for Tech to go in there.
It is. TCU, man, that is probably the most explosive offense in the Big 12. Yeah. They've found ways to win when Quentin Johnston is an almost non-factor, statistically at least. Johnston had a really nice touchdown catch on Saturday at West Virginia. I'm going with TCU in here. I don't know that we're quite to name your score on it, but Tech definitely needs to address some things from that Baylor loss.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe that's settle on one quarterback or figure out which one is your best chance to win at quarterback. But I would take TCU also.
Do you think that they go with a change? I haven't seen anything yet.
I don't know.
Or do you think they roll with Morton?
I don't know. That's a tough call, you know?
I can see where they start any of the three.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And we saw all three in the game last week, you know, with varied results.
Yeah.
But I don't know which way direction they go there.
I don't either. We go 2:30 Central Time from David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium in Lawrence. It is the now 19th or 18th ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys at 6-2, coming into Lawrence to face the Kansas Jayhawks. And Jalen Daniels has been practicing, as we said earlier in this show, and I think that's a big time key for Kansas.
Yeah, that could be interesting. It won't. I will say this: it won't be 55-3 like it was last year, right? I think this will be a very competitive game. Kansas with a little extra time, and a coach like Lance Leipold, I bet he just goes in the lab and gets some stuff done with an open date last Saturday.
And then we'd be remiss. Spencer Sanders, it's not 100% clear that he's going to play this season or this week. Keep making that mistake. And then Tom Hutton, he's a game changer now. Gundy's very confident in his backup punter, and Gunnar Gundy is his son, so he will be ready for this game. None of my friends need to watch this next sentence. I'm taking Kansas.
Are you really? Wow.
I'm taking Kansas at home to beat Oklahoma State for the first time in a very long time, simply because if Jalen Daniels does play as expected, that's a huge spark. They have not lost a game when he has finished it healthy.
Wow, very good. I'll take Oklahoma State just to be contrarian, and I think they'll bounce back.
So naturally, Oklahoma State's going to win this based on recent trends. 2:30 God's time on ESPN+. This is the one that I was talking about earlier. It's a certified anxiety bowl. 3-5 West Virginia, 3-5 Iowa State. And if you're the donors at West Virginia, do you have your checkbook ready if they lose this game?
Oh, I hate talking about that.
I hate firing coaches.
Right.
It's not it's my least favorite part of college football. But the results, at the end of the day, it's a results-based business is the way that every coach talks about it. And there are if you get a coach off the record, they will tell you the only thing that a school owes you is the money on your contract. And that basically fulfills it.
Right.
Neil Brown got a fully guaranteed deal. He got a full gym. You have a spider on your face.
No, I'm feeling it. Thank you.
I was like, okay, if it gets any closer.
Thank you.
But I know that West Virginia is not happy with the way this season has gone.
Yeah.
And the response to a really good 2020 simply hasn't been there.
Right. And what did I say earlier? I think Iowa State's going to beat somebody.
Yeah.
This may be their best chance, you know?
I agree with you.
Game is in
Ames.
In Ames, okay. Nothing against West Virginia really, but I'd pick Iowa State to win their first conference game.
I'm going with you on that. I think it's Iowa State. C.J. Donaldson, a huge loss for the Mountaineers. Hunter Deckers has improved every single week. And that defense in Ames is one of the best in the Big 12. Yeah. We've talked about it on this program. FBS fans in Iowa, I hope you like defense because you have two really good ones and one improving offense and one that only looked good against Northwestern.
Yeah.
I'm going with Iowa State in this one.
Okay, both of us agree there.
Yeah. Is there 2 games left? 1 game left. The final one, it is, in my opinion, the game of the week in the Big 12 this week. 6 p.m. Central on Fox Sports 1. It is number 24 Texas visiting number 13 Kansas State. This is on paper a banger.
Yeah, no, this is a great matchup. This is really good. Texas coming off an open date themselves. So, what benefit is that? We'll see. And a little bit rested, maybe 100% healthy.
Right.
But K-State on a really good roll right now and playing at home.
I don't want to play K-State right now at all.
Hey, they're coming here next week.
Next week. Yeah. That's a night game as well.
Yeah.
I flip a coin.
Yeah.
Because one, who plays quarterback for Kansas State? 2, does it matter who plays quarterback for Kansas State based on how last week went?
Right. Did you hear this week as Coach Kleiman was straight up asked, if would you start Will Howard even if Adrian Martinez is healthy? And he said, possibly.
possible.
I mean, he left the door open.
Yeah,
so
you
why
ride the
not?
hot hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Howard looked amazing last week. And he looked like a very, this is going to be a really harsh way to word it, but a serviceable backup last year whenever Skylar Thompson got hurt.
Yeah.
For Texas, they've only got one loss when Quinn Ewers finishes the game healthy, and that was at Oklahoma State. Does the transitive thing carry over? Because Texas sure didn't score a touchdown in the second half of that game against Oklahoma State. Or does the bye week help them fix it? These are the inner debates that I have with myself on this because I think this is a fascinating matchup.
Yeah. I will take Kansas State mostly because of Texas' issues on the road.
Yeah.
You know, and they just are, to me, two different teams playing at home compared to on the road.
Which one has more to play for? To me, it's Kansas State.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Wildcats in a close one. The only thing that would surprise me is if this is a low-scoring game. I can't even say that a blowout in either direction would surprise me because K-State just rolled the team that 3 weeks ago we said was the best team in the Big 12.
Exactly.
And so I like K-State in that one as well. So we only differ on
one game,
and it was
Oklahoma
short-term
State.
memory loss. Yeah, it was Oklahoma State and Kansas. I had Kansas.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So we'll see how everything rolls next week. Coach's show tonight.
Yes, sir.
It's radio only.
Radio only, not live at Rudy's. You can go to Rudy's and eat and listen to the show, but we won't be there this evening.
And then
Nikki Collin and Dave Aranda, so that's fun.
And then we'll hear from Nikki Collin on our end as well. Coming up this afternoon, we'll have that for you on 6 News at 10. And afterward here on 6 Plus and everywhere you stream 6 News. And then Saturday coverage starts at 12.
12 noon from Norman.
From Norman.
Yep.
Matt Lively will be there, so tune in to 6 News Weekend Edition. Enjoy the 405, my friend.
Could be raining.
Could be raining.
Could be raining Saturday.
And we say that a lot in Oklahoma.
Our equipment guys said, yeah, we're wearing white pants, white jerseys on a grass field with red paint. It's kind of a nightmare for the equipment guys.
I hope they have a subscription.